This is the problem I had with the Dio. The last time I wrote it, okay? I have a gauge here, and I would recommend everyone to get a voltage gauge. What this basically shows you is how much voltage you have in the battery, in the system, and you should have, when the motor's running, it should be up, and under throttle, you should be up to about 14 volts. That's what you should have. When I was out riding the last time in September, this gauge wasn't working. Either wasn't working, or there was no power in the battery, or there was something wrong with the alternator down here. Then what I saw here about a month ago is that if you look real close down through this hole right there, there's a spot of oil on the ground. Okay, well that's not supposed to be there. And I'm thinking, did it come from the pipe? Did it come from, is it part of the radiator fluid? Do I have a crack in the block? Do I have, I'm wondering what part of the problem could be causing all this. Is there a short in the system? All of a sudden when I was driving, I lost power. This wouldn't work from the moment I turned the bike on. And then my heat gauge, my cylinder gauge went way up. Now what I believe is that I didn't have any power here, so it couldn't run the water pump, and the fluid got hot, and that's why I was losing power. You have to remember that when the bike is at speed or you're accelerating, you need a lot more power because that spark plug is firing so many thousands of times more than when the bike is at idle. And so you need a constant, heavy, lot of spark from your coil right here, leading down and going to your spark plug. And you also need you need juice in your battery and everything else. That leads me to wonder what my problem could be. So my first thing I'm going to do, and this is a problem solving thing, if you have a problem with your bike, is you can go through and find out what it's not. And what that means is you have a checklist in your mind. Okay, the gauge wasn't working. So what I'll do is I'll take this gauge and I will hook it up to one of my other batteries here. I bought a few batteries back in the day, and I will charge one of these up and I will hook the gauge up to it. If the gauge works, then I know that the gauge is not the problem. Maybe the wiring between the gauge and the engine is the problem. So I'll look for a damaged part. And when the bike got hot very quickly, that could mean a couple of things. One I really don't want to think about. I could have spun a bearing, which hopefully I did not do. Because this 52.5 millimeter crankshaft requires these really thin bearings, and they have to be specially fit in the bearing races. The races in the case, in the crankcase, have got to be machined carefully to put them in. They have to be machined specially. Because the crankshaft's so big, the bearings are a little bit smaller. So I'm going, okay, where do I have the leak from? And I'm thinking, well, we'll go through this on the next video.